In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the Steven Slate Audio VSX, which I'm wearing at the minute. Ordered them from Tommen last week and took a little bit to arrive to Northern Ireland, but got them a few days ago, and I've just been enjoying listening to different reference material, just music that I love, familiarizing myself with the acoustical sort of properties of the different spaces. And if anybody is picking these up, I really recommend that you take as much time as you can to sort of familiarize yourself with listening to music that you love through the various spaces, and resist the urge to sort of jump around between them, because I think if you do that, you'll just end up confusing your ears and make yourself sort of think that nothing sounds right in any of them. Whereas if I started with NRG Studios near fields, and then moved to the midfields, and then moved to the far fields. Had a really great experience. And then when I switched to Archon, it went to the midfields, and the midfield sounded kind of weird because I'd gone from these massive speakers with huge bass extension, and like unreal bass reproduction, to much smaller speakers in a completely different acoustic space, and it was kind of confusing. And similar, if you spend maybe half an hour just listening to music that you love through the NRG speakers, near fields, far fields, and then if you move to HD linear, which if you start with HD linear, it sounds great, but then you move to the speakers and it totally changes the sense of space. And if you switch back to HD linear after listening to say near fields or far fields in NRG, the HD linear starts to HD linear starts to sound a little bit strange. So I'd recommend sort of committing to a particular setup, listen to some music on it, take a little break, come back, switch spaces, listen to some more music on that, and repeat. And that way you sort of allow your brain and your ears to come to terms with what you're actually hearing, and appreciate each space as a space, and not just like a preset that you can cycle through. I think that way you'll have a much easier time adapting to it, because it's new technology, so it's gonna take a little while for your brain to adjust to it. But over the last 3 days, from listening to all the reference material, it's been a real joy, honestly. So yeah, in terms of build quality, the shells themselves are nice and light, and the leather pads really comfortable, really soft, just mold around your ears nicely. No problem wearing them for hours on end. No problem wearing them over glasses as well. They seem to mold around the glasses really nicely. Pretty cable, 2 meters long, a nice snug fit. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to fall out by accident or anything, or it hasn't so far. It seems to be pretty tightly in there. It would have been probably nicer to have one that sort of went in and twisted and locked maybe, but it seems like a pretty tight fit, so it's fine. But yeah, build quality is all good. So here's an overview of the VSX software. You have the NRG, Archon, Howie Weinberg's Mastering Room, Electric Car, SUV, Audiophile Room, Club, Boombox. Then you have a 650, because it's Sennheiser. Then you got the Audio Technica M50X, HD Linear, TT770. There are 2 models of it, 80 ohm and 250 ohm. Then you have the wired and wireless versions of Apple EarPods. You have a little 2-second palette cleanse. So when you switch between different room emulations or different headphone emulations, you give yourself the 2 seconds. It just kind of helps you to adjust. It's very easy to confuse your ears if you switch between them too quickly. Then you have your little favorites bar here. So if I say I want to put my favorites as the midfields in NRG, I set that one, and then 2 I'll set to the far fields, Archon midfields, 3 Archon far fields, 4, and then as 5 I'll have the audio file room. Then when you're in here, on the sort of full screen mode, or the larger screen mode, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Depth controls sort of the amount of the binaural effect, so sort of like crosstalk, I guess. And you put your output, then you have an EQ section, which is fairly subtle. It doesn't do even at full, like it's fairly subtle. And you got your bypass, which bypasses it into HD linear mode. And then you have your auto bypass and export. The launch, the walkthrough. So that's pretty much the software. The real truth is sort of how it sounds, but unless you've actually got the headphones, then you can't really tell. Like if I let you listen to the song that I'm mixing on the midfields, it's going to sound really weird. It sounds great to me, but it's going to sound weird to you. So yeah, that's going to sound really strange to you, and I'm going to disable it here. You can hear what the song actually sounds like, but when I do that, it's going to sound really weird to me because I'm wearing the headphones. So yeah, I have an earlier mix of this song that I had before I got VSX, so I'll do a render of how it is now and how it was before. It wasn't finished before, but you'll notice quite a big improvement, I think. You have the sort of basic HD linear model, which is kind of like a flat profile for specifically designed for these headphones, which other sort of software like Sonarworks sort of aims to do with headphones. Although they just take an average response from sort of consumer headphones and try to flatten them as best that they can. So that's the Audio-Technica M50X, and then it just sort of flattens the curve out. In my experience, it tends to leave the overall sound sounding a little bit sort of lifeless and dull. I've never really felt like I could fully trust them to mix with. I think that once they're calibrated, they lose a lot of the sort of accuracy in the low end. It kind of smears things. I think it's just a limitation of the software. So the Slate software seems to have sort of bypassed that by providing headphones with a HD linear profile. But really, I mean, when I ordered them, I thought that was going to be the mode that I would use the most with these headphones. And in the last 3 days, I've completely changed my opinion. I found that the two main studios, the NRG and the Archon, I've been just listening to different source material from the Prodigy, Fat of the Land album, Ministry, Psalm 69, Clutch albums, Earth Rocker and Psychic Warfare, Faith No More, Beck, John Williams, classical sort of, music, just greatest hits of John Williams, a bunch of modern contemporary sort of classical music, some soundtrack music, that stuff that I know has like very, very like a lot of low end in them. And that's the thing about these, like I've never heard of her headphones that is able to reproduce low end like these headphones. It's not something that I'm going to be able to demonstrate in a video. It's just something that you really need to experience. So the far field, I was listening to Beck Colors off the Colors album, and it actually left me feeling kind of emotional because the bass reproduction, the overall sound, the quality, the level of detail, everything sounded phenomenal. It's a real joy just to listen to music, and that's all I've done for the last 3 days. Yesterday, I referenced my own album, and was quite pleased with how things were translating for the most part. There was a couple of songs that in the back of my mind, or in the front of my mind, I was struggling with, and just sort of accepted them as they were. But now I can hear very clearly, using the references, that certain areas need fixed or tweaked, and I know exactly what to do now, which is awesome to be able to hear that clearly. It's one of the real sort of the bonuses of a software component like this, is that you can go into NRG Studios. I'm going to turn off the 2 second, and then switch between near fields, mid fields, far fields, and then go to a car and reference it in the car, or club, or boombox, or an audiophile room. The audiophile room is really pleasant. It has quite a lot of sort of ambience to it, but still, it's a very pleasurable room to listen to music in. Then you got your sort of headphone emulations. M50X is what I was using until I got the VSX. I'll probably still use them from time to time. I used to have a pair of 770s, and these sound very like them. They have that very almost distorted kind of high end. The 650s I've never owned, but they're a really nice sounding headphone. But really, none of they're good for referencing on, but these two are the stars of the show, the NRG and the Archon. Midfields and NRG are my favorite, followed by the Farfields in NRG, and then midfields and Farfields in Archon. A lot of people seem to sort of struggle with Howie's Room, but I was listening to some Jeff Buckley Grace songs off his album, and he mastered that album, so I thought it would be a good test in his room, and they sounded really good. And I've listened to some other stuff in that room, and it also sounds really good. But then I've listened to other songs, and they tend to sound weird. I've seen a few people say that things have sounded kind of phasey, and I've noticed that with some of the tracks of my own that I've listened to and on the different sort of references, and some of them they sound okay, some of them they sound slightly strange, a couple of them they sound pretty badly phasey, and which made me think, right, okay, there are translation issues there, things that I'm gonna have to address, which I will, and that's part of the joy of it. Like I went into it hoping that it would reveal things about my mixes, and it has. So a lot of people are gonna really appreciate this who don't have an acoustically treated space, or don't have even a space that would benefit from acoustic treatment at all, because it's of space requirements, or so for people like that, VSX is gonna be a real game changer for them. It's gonna sort of allow them to have access to like world-class studios, which is just crazy to think about, compared to the likes of Sonarworks. The headphone calibration has never been their strong point. Always for me, it's been the speaker profiles, or the speaker calibration is where they've shined. One thing that you're probably going to want to be careful with is that if you have VSX on, you're not going to want to have Sonarworks or Can Opener on. So there's been a couple of times whenever I've been referencing songs through the system audio, and I haven't disabled Sonarworks. And when I put the headphones on, I've played a song, and it didn't sound right on any of the rooms. It just sounded really strange. And then I realized that I had Sonarworks system-wide active, which then obviously was processing through my speaker calibration, then coming through the VSX software, which slightly embarrassing for me. And once I disabled it, the NRG Farfields kicked in full effect, and it was like being transported to somewhere else. It was crazy. So same thing would apply to Can Opener. Can Opener actually worked pretty well with the HD linear, where you could sort of, in combination with HD linear, you could like make custom presets, save them. It actually comes with a bunch of really cool presets. Mix Engineer Flat sounded really good with it. Modern Music and More Air usually sounds pretty decent. But yeah, that could give you like some additional sort of simulated environments that you could reference through. But yeah, so far, since spending 3 days with these things, I'm really, really impressed. And I think that an awful lot of people who, even people who like myself, who have decently treated rooms, are going to really benefit from these. It's going to be a real time saver in terms of being able to reference between all these different sort of environments. And Steven's been talking about releasing some more. I think he's just profiled his own studio. So that'll be coming in an update. They're going to tweak Howie Weinberg's studio a little bit, apparently. And I think I saw a thing where he said that he was going to tweak NRG near fields and midfields. But I really hope that he doesn't do anything drastic to the midfields, because they're my favourite so far. The near midfields and the far fields in NRG just sound amazing. So, as I said, I came into this, I bought the VSX thinking that the HD linear would be the profile that I gravitated towards and used. And initially, when I tried it out on a reference, I thought it sounded great, detailed. I could hear every detail from the high frequencies to the low frequencies and the separation, the whole thing, and I was impressed by it. It worked a lot better than the M50Xs with Sonarworks. It wasn't dull. Everything had a sense of detail and clarity and life to it, which I find Sonarworks kind of sucks the detail and dulls things and makes things sort of feel a little bit lifeless. But then when I started with NRG, started with the near fields, listened to a Clutch song, can't remember what song it was, switched to the midfields, listened to another Clutch song called Gone Cold. Great song, really well produced, and it just sounded amazing. It was the best listening experience of that song that I've personally had. And then I moved on to the far fields with Beck Colors, and it actually left me feeling a wee bit emotional, because it was the amount of like how good it sounded. Loved the song, and the way that the bass was reproduced in these headphones was just like nothing I've experienced with headphones. So yeah, definite recommendation. Really, really cool technology, massive step forwards, and they've really raised the bar. And I think it's going to really help everybody, from sort of people that are just hobbyists to people that are making their money to people that are on the go a lot, who can't take their studio with them, but they can have access to all of these sort of simulated environments. And I can totally understand why people would be comfortable mixing an Archon or NRG. They're both great and just a joy to listen to music in. So yeah, highly recommend it. Okay, I've spent another few days with the headphones and the software that comes with them, and I've been doing some mixing as well. I'm going to include the sort of mix that I had before, and then the mix that I've done since using the VSX, and also a sort of a quick master that I did with Ozone and the VSX. What I would say, and I can't really emphasize this enough, is that if you get your hands on the highest quality reference material that you can, and just spend as much time as you can listening to like excellent mixes through the VSX, and you can, monitor it through the different sort of emulations, and then you get a really good idea of what a great mix will sound like on the headphones. I think if you just go straight into your own material with no reference point, and your ears aren't really calibrated to it, then it's quite confusing. And it does take a while to sort of calibrate your ears to what the VSX is adding. I found like a lot of modern, contemporary classical music. Has really, really nice top end, full range, dynamic, and it really does show off the quality of the headphones and the sound that they're capable of. So I'd recommend sort of listening to some stuff like that for sure. But also just modern mixes tend to really shine on it, or classic mixes that have been remastered tend to be pretty great as well. I have noticed that like some of my favorite albums, they don't hold up that well whenever I've referenced them. And that left me sort of feeling like they deserve a remaster. But yeah, I'll include a link to the before mix and the current mix that I've just finished. So, and then you can have a listen to see if you think it's better. I think it's better. There's quite a few things that the VSX revealed on the various rooms. So yeah, brilliant. I'm really impressed with VSX. It's making me sort of look forward to mixing, but also even just look forward to listening to new music on it and experiencing it. It's like a real joy just listening to music on it. I think at some point, if Slate were to come out with either headphones that had DSP built into them, or like an app for your phone that you could download, plug these headphones into your phone and experience what it was like to listen in the audiophile room or one of the Archon or NRG studio or High's mastering room. Or so I'm really interested to see what sort of updates come out. What's going to be added to it. I think Steven has modeled his own room, so that'll be interesting to hear what his own room sort of sounds like. And yeah, my own room is pretty neutral. It has, you can see like this bass trap behind me. There's two more in front of me. There's a cloud above me, all made from sort of mineral wool or earth wool. And I've got another one to the side of me here as well for sort of reflection points. And basically this behind me is like there's a door there, and it's kind of a large cupboard, so I've hung like a thick duvet with a curtain hanging over the front of it. So it's all that's pretty rough. I need to figure out a better way to do that. But as far as the bass traps go, they're fine. Just built a frame covered in material. Cut the earth wool into triangles. Cut the inner triangle off the sort of in the facing the corner. They're about 30 centimeters deep and have about a 15 centimeter air gap. And I tested it with and without the air gap. I had like a large 50 hertz bump of like 18 decibels in this room, and I've got it down to about 3 with these bass traps. So they've definitely made a difference. And I found that when I've been switching between the NRG midfields and my own speakers in my own room, I figured out that's why I like the NRG midfield so much, is because it sounds so similar to the Focal Alpha 80s in my own mixing space. So it's familiarity, really. I think probably Archon midfields are more neutral, but I like the vibe of the NRG ones better. But yeah, great system. Highly recommend it. I have a feeling it's probably going to be difficult to pick them up for the next while, just because I think they're probably going to have a struggle meeting demand for them, same way they did with the ML2 mics. But yeah, so if you get them, enjoy. I think you will. I think you'll be impressed. Cheers.